Me all right? Yeah, cool. Good morning. How are we? Nice, good start. Good morning. How are we? Thank you very much. So, good morning, revolutionaries. That's all we are. So, this morning's first talk track will be represented by Return Path. We have Dan Stone and Priyanka Roy. Give it up to these guys.
Right, just make sure the technology works before we get anywhere. Perfect. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope the Masters has caffeinated you enough to get through the next half an hour to 45 minutes of content. And thank you for Masters for inviting us to the event. My name is Dan Stone. I work as an email strategist at Return Path. I've been in email marketing for about 12 years now. God, it's been a long time working for online retail and publishing and then moving across to Return Path to do strategy for them.
And I'm Priyanka. I have worked at Return Path for a little bit over 7 years, so I know a bit about email. So hopefully we'll do justice.
Right. Come on. So today we want to talk about customer centricity in email marketing, the gift that keeps on giving. I'll stand here apparently. Cool. There we go. So just a bit of an agenda, so what we're going to go through today. But yes, let's go straight into it, to be honest. So the state of email, before we get into customer centricity and everything about it, we wanted to give a bit of a state of email. Obviously, you hear all the stories, email's dead, every year email's dying, but what is the truth? So I love this slide. This was a slide that always entertains me. So this was sort of someone's idea, the path to the inbox. You send your email from your ESP, and then it goes into the NSA. Some scary shit happens to it. The US government gets involved, probably Russia as well, Dracula, the Illuminati, and then it finally lands in the inbox. But the truth is, it's actually more complicated than that.
Inbox is actually a battlefield today. So in our content of customer centricity, we are going to talk about 3 hurdles. One is actually from sent to getting delivered, and that's what's going to be taken care of by your ESP. The second hurdle is to get into the inbox after you got delivered. And the third hurdle is actually staying in the inbox. And that is so much dependent on what your subscribers are feeling about your brand. And that's all we are going to talk about today.
Exactly. And I know this looks complicated and scary, but to be honest, email is in a good place. According to eConsultancy, it still produces the strongest ROI compared to any other channel. And the DMA actually produced some interesting documentation that on average, an email address is worth £28 to an organization. So obviously, still in a strong place. It's still a key channel in email marketing. So now let's move on to customer centricity, if I could say it. I've got to practice saying centricity. So this is a fantastic diagram by Steve McDonald about all the areas that make up customer centricity and how you put the customer first at the end of it. It always has to be about customer thought. What does the customer think? And first of all, we want to talk about the metrics that matter.
So throughout the presentation, we might be using some words. If you think that we are not clarifying things enough, feel free to ask us questions. And Dan and I will hang out today at the Return Path stand all day, so come find us as well.
Nice shameless plug. So hidden metrics.
So hidden metrics, what are they and why do we really want to talk about hidden metrics? So anything that you're not measuring today. So the reason why it's important is as marketers, we all need to see how our subscribers are engaging with us. And we look at your open rates, your click rates, unsubscribes, how are people engaging with the overall email marketing program. But essentially, mailbox providers like Microsoft and Gmail, they don't really care. What they care about is, for example, if brand A sends Dan an email, and if I were Microsoft, all I care about is what is Dan's engagement level with brand A versus all the other brands that are sending emails to Dan's inbox. And that's all I care about. And if Dan is not really engaging with brand A, well, hard luck. Microsoft will filter emails into the junk folder. Mm-hmm. So today we will invite you to think about engagement in terms of a little bit different metrics that you would generally not think about in terms of measuring your performance. And at Return Path, we call them hidden metrics. So what are hidden metrics? So there are some positive hidden metrics. These are like positive triggers that a subscriber can provide to their mailbox providers. So these are like message read, messages replied to if I'm replying to a brand message, or if I'm bringing back emails from the spam folder to the inbox. That's a huge positive trigger. But there are negative triggers as well. So, for example, messages deleted without reading. I'm unengaged with your brand, so much so that I don't even want to engage with anything that your brand has to offer, and I'm deleting your messages without reading them. And as marketers today, I find not a lot of people look into these kind of metrics and try to measure performance. But data always tells a story, and if you look at these metrics, you almost get a feel of how your subscribers are looking at your email, what are they feeling about your email and your brand. So we will now see some examples as to how Return Path thinks about hidden metrics and hidden metrics in action.
So personalization, everyone hears personalization is a fantastic thing, everyone should be doing personalization. I wanted to put it to the actual test and use hidden metrics to prove the worth of personalization in email. So I set up a comparison, Netflix versus BFI. Imagine it like a Street Fighter fight, they both fly in with the verses in the middle of it. So let's talk about Netflix. Everyone knows Netflix, very personalized, the app and the website recommend products to you, videos to you all the time that you should be watching based on propensity modeling. Compare that to BFI, a bit more standard, a bit more one-size-fits-all, just general recommendations. But what does the hidden metrics tell us about this? So first of all, let's look at read rates. So comparing BFI to Netflix, you can see that BFI ever so slightly have a lower read rate on average compared to Netflix. Look at what we call the deleted without reading, so more the customer's actually just deleting the email without reading it. You can see BFI has more of that happening due to Netflix because the content might not be as engaging to them as Netflix is. And then finally, what we call the MPP marked spam, or this is actually filtering by the inbox. So the ISPs are putting the emails into the spam folder versus the inbox. You can see that BFI have a higher rate of this happening compared to Netflix. This will come down to engagement or the way that the emails are being consumed by the customers. And then moving on to forwards, as Priyanka said, forwards is another fantastic metric to show engagement and show that brands or customers are engaging with brand. This is an example from Waitrose. They send out an email about cookery and about getting involved with recipe cards and about how does listing all the ingredients to go with it. When we compare the read rates compared to their benchmark average, a few points up, nothing too different. But when we actually look at the forwarding rates of this, you can see this is dramatically higher. Obviously, with these emails, people are wanting to share it with their friends and family, share like these recipes that they love. Maybe next time I come around, I want you to make this recipe for me if you want to be a bit cheeky. I do that to my sister, to be honest. I send her a little menu of, I'd like you to make this next time I come around, because I'm not a very good brother, to be honest.
But then for mailbox providers, it can be a huge positive trigger that a subscriber not only likes your emails, they want everyone around them to see what you're sending. So that's a great example, Dan.
Yeah, and then when we actually look at the 2018 Hidden Metrics benchmark, you can see what the average was, and comparing it to Waitrose, they're a lot higher on these campaigns, just showing just the true engagement of these.
So we are talking about hidden metrics and the positive aspects of it. This is actually one of my favorite examples from BT. So every Friday, they send an email out, Friday Fix, and they talk about games and events coming up. And it's very consistent every Friday, and it's called a Friday Fix. When we looked at that email and how it was performing, what we found was a lot of people were retrieving these emails from the spam folder back to their inbox. Why? Probably because it's so consistent. I'm waiting to get a Friday Fix email from BT. If I don't see it in my inbox today, I'm going to go to my spam folder to get it. So it kind of gives a positive flag to the mailbox providers that I really want to receive this email, and also a very positive boost to the email reputation that we all talk about.
Exactly.
So we are talking about positive flags, and we need to talk about negative flags as well. So we all remember the panic we had when KFC ran out of chicken. Oh my God, it was crazy. So what KFC decided to do is send out an apology email. which in itself is not bad. Yeah, I mean, an apology email to your subscribers, great. But what happened is the tone of the email probably did not resonate with the subscribers. And it's important, and I'll talk about it a few more seconds about that. But what we saw in our metrics, that mailbox providers marking this message as spam went through the roof. Now the question is why, right? I mean, every time you're testing a strategy, think about your audience. Think about, does my audience have appetite to receive or consume this kind of an email? And the second thing, which is quite important, is bad press. So every time, think about every time your brand has a bad press, wherever it is, it could be at your customer service, where people are not really happy with service, or it could be a direct marketing you've sent out with your brand. Every time you're setting those expectations and your subscribers are unhappy with your brand, the easiest way to take it out is via email. Complain on your email, or put it in the inbox, delete them without reading. So things to think about.
Definitely. And then moving on to one of my favorite examples is something I wrote a blog post on a while ago. This is a Yellow Bulldog. You might have guessed I'm a bit of a geek. I love all the sci-fi TV shows and everything. And Yellow Bulldog is a brand I consume quite heavily. They send me lots of interesting T-shirts, lots of interesting offers into my inbox. And you see some example emails from there, and then you might see one that stands out, Darth Vader. So last Christmas, I think it was, out of the blue, I received an email from a brand called Darth Vader, and I did it what every consumer would say. I don't recognize that brand. I don't receive emails from Darth Vader at all. I've never seen one before. So I actually just deleted it without reading it. And then the marketer inside me thought, it's a bit weird. You know, I like Star Wars. It must be some sort of reason. So I went back and dug it out. And it actually turned out it was Yellow Bulldog had changed their branding, the from name, to try and be clever to tie into the offer that they were sending. But because I didn't recognize that brand anymore, I didn't have the trust with it. And then when we actually looked at the hidden metrics, you can see that that campaign had a higher delete that reading rate compared to their base, because other people were similar to me, didn't recognize the brand name anymore, didn't have that trust in that brand. So just deleted it and didn't realize it was actually a very good offer from Yellow Bulldog. And then moving on to actually mailboxes. The mailboxes themselves are actually a lot, working on helping to unsubscribe. So this is an example from the Gmail app, that if a consumer doesn't open emails from a certain brand within 30 days, then Gmail pop up the tooltip going, you haven't engaged with this brand in a while, would you just like to unsubscribe from this brand? And it's trying to entice them to unsubscribe and remove emails from the inbox that they're not engaging with anymore.
That's a good point, Dan, because we are talking about hidden metrics, and you're thinking, okay, my subscriber has unsubscribed, but what is the core reason why they have done it? And from Mailbox perspective, this is what Yahoo is doing. So if you're deleting emails, like 3 emails in a row, they are sending a trigger saying, hey, do you really want to be subscribed to this brand? And chances are, if I'm not, then I would unsubscribe as a subscriber. What you are measuring as marketers is, well, Priyanka has unsubscribed from my brand. Well, why have I done that? What is the core of it? I'm deleting your emails without reading them. So I hope you can take away some of the hidden metrics and things to think about, which is a little bit outside of the KPIs, which is open rates and click rates and unsubscribes.
Exactly. So just the key takeaways, as we've already said, data always tells a story. Obviously look at your clicks and your conversions, but other data points to put your customer at the center of everything that you do to understand what your customer's doing.
Right, and you know what? Go ahead and have fun with your email campaigns, but always think about your audience. What kind of appetite does your audience have to consume your campaigns? To test everything, do not implement a certain strategy and run with it and implement it for your entire database. Test it and have fun with your content.
Exactly. So going back to our fantastic chart, thanks again, Steve, for this one. We now want to look at a few extra points, so designing the experience and understanding the customer. And with that reminds, obviously, the time of year that we're in, it's 'tis the season. You know, the joke that winter is coming, and so is Christmas. You know, I've got to put a Game of Thrones reference in there. I'm really sorry. Had to do it. I was really happy when I came up with this one as well. And, you know, there's no avoiding it. It is coming up. So we just want to talk a bit about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important points people are talking about today is personalization. You can't run away from it. Too much of it is creepy. Too little of it, you're making your customers feel that they are not special enough. But start with something in order to personalize, because we have found that every time you give your subscribers a personalized experience, they are more happy with your brand. They are more okay to share some personal information, share something that they wouldn't probably share with brands they are not giving them personalized experience. But don't stop there. You can do a lot of other things. You can segment, you can test out different strategies, think about creating social sharing, and so on. So whilst talking about personalization, we need to talk about subject lines as well. Because now it's the holiday season, everyone is going to send more and more emails every day. And subject lines are quite tough because you're churning out subject lines every day, maybe even 4 times a day. Think about what you're sending, make it relevant, and make your subscribers feel special with your subject lines. I think one of the most important key takeaways here is the use of emojis. And we see a lot of people trying to use different kind of emojis, but be careful, because if every travel vertical starts using a sun and a surf emoji, it's not going to work, because I'm seeing every other subject line with that, and what's special about that? And talking about emojis, Dan, do you want to share your...
Yeah, Pizza Hut used to do some very cool emails where they just did emoji-only subject lines. So there was no text in it, just pure emojis, and it was quite engaging, quite entertaining with that brand. But I saw other brands jumping on that bandwagon, and because it didn't work with their tone of voice, it just lost the meaning, and everyone started doing it, and it just lost the concept of it, to be honest. And then moving on to timing, so obviously Black Friday, when I worked at marketing 1 year, my boss came to me and was like, we're going to do Black Friday month. Every day we're going to be sending emails around Black Friday, and I was like, the hell are you talking about? Like, no, Black Friday is 1 day of the week, 1 day of the year. It's like, no, everyone's going to love discounts every day for a month, and I was like, you're crazy, like, what are you talking about? So I wanted to do some analysis on this. This is actually a French brand, and they did a 2-week Black Friday event, and we looked at the read rates of their emails going up to it, and you can see that they were increasing very nicely coming up to Black Friday, and then kind of went off a bit of a cliff at the end. So post-event, obviously people are still opening and engaging with them, but not to the same rate. So it just shows each brand is different. Some people might do Black Friday weeks or Black Friday 2 weeks, and it works for them. It comes around to testing and knowing your brand and knowing your customers, and again, put them at the center of it to understand what they want and what they accept. And then moving on to gamification, so how to make your emails interesting and eye-catching and engaging. So this is a fantastic example from Ever 21. They do a nice like scratch card GIF animation in their emails for Black Friday last year. It was eye-catching, it was fun. People like had a sense of anticipation, knowing what the final discount was, and if they clicked through, which one they would get, because it was a bit like a Russian roulette type thing. And it actually built the engagement and built the fun and the whole point of Black Friday, and you know, have some fun with it.
I don't know how many times I opened that email, because will the discount change every time I do a scratch card game? It was quite interesting.
Exactly. And then obviously talking about Christmas, everyone's doing discounting, product ranges, but that might not necessarily suit your brand and not what your customers want. For example, I'm a massive music fan goer. I go to a lot of music festivals. I still have all the wristbands on from all my music festivals. So my friends every year get me Ticketmaster vouchers because they don't know what to buy me for Christmas. So I like a voucher, so when it's time to buy the next Glastonbury ticket, which I sadly didn't get tickets for this year, which I'm a bit sad about, but other events, then I still have the discount ready to go. Or maybe this is a good example from Marks and Spencer's. You know, if your mum's anything like mine, she was like, I don't need anything for Christmas, just don't buy me anything. And I'm like, I can't buy you flowers again for like the 5th year in a row. I need to look like a better son. So when I get in trouble, I can sort of remind you that I got you a very nice gift that one time. So Marks and Spencer do a last-minute gift guide, so encouraging people to buy, giving you some ideas. If you're not sure what to buy someone, then here's a list of recommended products. And obviously, countdown timers, we talk about countdown timers a lot. I'm sure all of you do as well, but how to use them in a different way. Coming up to Christmas, maybe have a countdown to the last date you can buy before the last postage date, or you know, you can only buy if you have to buy by the end of the day, or your parcel won't turn up in time for Christmas. So it's building a sense of urgency, but just doing it a bit slightly different way to the norm.
But don't just think about Christmas and Black Friday. There are just so many days you can have fun with your campaigns. One of my favorite examples is probably the next one, which is the Asda example. And they did a great Halloween campaign where every time you open the email, it became a bit more spookier. And I got into my email every now and then to check, did it change, did it not? I think this was powered by Kick Dynamic, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I think those guys are there. But this was one of my favorite examples. I loved it, I engaged with it a lot. And when we looked at data from our panel, we saw that this particular campaign was well received by a lot of people, and their benchmark performance and when performance of this campaign was way better. So think about innovative ways to probably engage your subscribers and not just one or two. Which brings us to Valentine's Day, which is not, it's in February. Now, I'm a kind of person who is gonna probably love candies or an evening out or whatever. I'm not necessarily gonna think about a bucket of chicken when I'm thinking of Valentine's Day. But that didn't stop KFC from doing a Valentine's Day campaign. It didn't stop Innocent from doing, and they're a smoothie brand. I haven't thought about smoothies as a Valentine's Day gift, but think about a customized label, maybe not too bad. So what I'm inviting you to think about, if your brand is not necessarily a romantic brand or something you haven't thought about, should not stop you from running campaigns to do a Valentine's Day campaign. If KFC can do it, so can you. And don't just stop on the Christmases and Valentine's Day and so on. You can do a lot more with your brand.
Yeah, so for example, if you don't have a traditional day that fits your brand, invent your own day. That's exactly a couple of examples here. Mr. Hyde started National Burger Day, which, to be honest, in our office, we're massive burger nuts, so we will always go for a burger, especially if there's a discount involved in well. And who doesn't love a beer? So Beer Hawk started their own side beer Monday, where you got 15% off all beer. So it just shows that if you have a brand and you have an idea, you don't have a day that fits it, invent your own day. And there was a couple of good examples from a few years ago. So an American brand called REI, or RE, who are like an outdoor clothing brand. They announced that they were going to close all their stores on Black Friday in 1 year and actually turn off their website, and they were not going to do any Black Friday promotions at all and give the staff the day off. And they're enticing people to go out and enjoy the outside world on Black Friday instead of sitting at home on the internet trying to buy discounts. And it actually turned into a movement. The first year that happened, they saw sales go up a few weeks before Black Friday because people were preparing to go out and enjoy the non-Black Friday event. And then the year afterwards, they ran it again, and all the national parks in America actually jumped on the bandwagon, and announced that they were going to also give free tickets to everyone that day, so you could go into the national parks on Black Friday, get out there, and they kind of just started their own movement of an anti-Black Friday.
We at Return Path, we celebrate the burger days. We go out as a team and have burgers. Groupon did something similar, didn't they? They did a Green Friday. So you don't necessarily need to have a seasonality to your campaigns. Imagine or invent something and just kind of have fun with it and make your subscribers feel special. And that's all about customer centricity, putting your customers first. So whenever we talk about all these things, one thing we always recommend, prepare for the worst. With the seasonalities coming up, when you want to get too many emails out of the door, mistakes happen. You might send out a campaign without a subject line or an offer that you can't commit to. What do you do then? Have an apology campaign ready to go. Have the template, have everything ready to go, so that if mistakes do happen, you're not running around at the last minute thinking of creating a campaign and sending it out. You have it all ready for you to go ahead and send it to your subscribers. Loyal subscribers are also forgiving. So they would always appreciate an apology email coming from the brand. It's okay, people make mistakes, but make sure you're ready and you're not making mistakes on your apology emails at the last minute.
Yeah, I have actually a good example on that. So I get a lot of emails from certain email governing bodies, and one time they sent me a very nice article with a lot of blog post links in it. None of the links worked. So they sent me an apology email going, we're really sorry, we made a mistake, here's the actual links. The links still didn't work. So they had to send me a third email. The links finally worked, but somehow in the rush of trying to get this thing out, they corrected my salutation to Susan and greeted me as Susan, which I wasn't overly happy about.
Not sure how that worked, but having said that, prepare for the worst, because mistakes happen. So one of the most important key takeaways we want to let you think is look back to look forward. What that means is, yes, you're running a campaign, a Black Friday, a Cyber Monday, and so on. It'll be a missed opportunity if you didn't analyze what you did last year. What did you do last year? What were your challenges? What were the mistakes you did? What were the success metrics? And when you have all that data, it will then talk about, or it will help you strategize your seasonal campaigns of this year. And if you don't do that, you're not, I mean, you have the data with you, it's your company, it's your brand, it's your successes. It's only then a matter of, taking that inspiration from there and then make sure your campaigns reflect that.
And also, competitive benchmark, obviously look at what your competitors do and your direct competitors, but maybe look at your best in breed, someone you aspire to be to. When I worked for a certain online retailer a few years ago, we wanted to be the ASOS of our industry, so we copied ASOS as much as possible, honestly ripped it off as much as possible if we could get away with it. But just because they're not a direct competitor to us doesn't mean those emails aren't going to the same inboxes that we are. So it's going to still be competition there, because brands might integrate with your brands and also a non-direct competitor. So it's about thinking outside that box, trying to find some best in breed and trying to see what they're up to.
Okay, so we want to talk about return path certification. And why do we want to talk about return path certification? So we are talking about customer centricity today. And to talk about customer centricity, let's just go back to that very confusing red slide. It's not even rendering very clearly now. But let's go back to the second hurdle we talked about, that is getting into the inbox. If you don't get into the inbox in the first place, no matter what strategy you think about, everything you put resources with your campaigns and content, your subscribers might not be able to see them for you to then get ROI and get all that good things from your email. So we thought we should talk about certification, something that we do offer.
Exactly. So certification coverage, it's the leading whitelist out there. It currently covers about 3.5 billion inboxes across the world. So it's the market leader when we come to whitelisting and helping get you into the inbox. We partner with some big names in the market. Obviously, some logos up here you will recognize, the Yahoos, the Microsofts, the AOLs, a lot of providers in the US as well if you're sending into those markets.
And we being return path, one thing we do with our data is we analyze that. Whether our customers, which are our end customers, want to see analysis or not, we love to analyze our data just for internal purposes to see what's working, what's not. And so we wanted to compare, is there a performance uplift between certified and non-certified customers we have? And yes, it looks like we do. A certified customer can always get an uplift in inboxes. Obviously not everyone, but obviously with our partners. And then the second thing is, with the holiday season coming, we also wanted to analyze, is there any kind of positive impact to being certified? And what we saw is, during holiday season, it could be a busy period. It could not be your busy period, but remember, everyone in the industry is trying to send more and more emails. So whether it is your busy period or not, it kind of stops to matter. But what we found was, with certification, your inbox placement was more uniform. It was more stable than customers who were not return path certified. So they had a lot of spikes and down trends with their certification metric.
Exactly. And then moving on to migration. So I've worked a lot this year helping customers migrate from one ESP to another. It's probably one of the most riskiest things you can do in email marketing. There's so many pitfalls around getting back into the inbox, rebuilding that reputation, and getting the ISPs to recognize you as that certain brand again. And this is a live example from a customer of ours. You can see before certification, their inbox placement is fluctuating all over the place. Lots of spike in spam rates. They were getting to the spam folder quite a lot while they were warming up their IP. We turned on certification, and you can see an immediate uplift that it's stabilized at quite a high level. And also Radley. So Radley are actually a joint customer between Return Path and Amasis, and a big shout out to Amasis for all the fantastic work that we did on this project together. Radley got certified recently, and they've actually seen an uplift of about 22% in inbox placement and about 28% in read rate. So it just shows the power of certification. Once they're into the inbox, then they can start being customer-centric and trend centricity and working to engage their customers more.
And don't just take our words for it. I mean, you can log on to Return Path website, go through a little bit of case studies, which most of our clients do, and also testimonials. And I'm a big champion for Return Path certification because it takes away the tension of getting into the inbox in the first place. So when you're thinking about all kinds of things, your content, your segmentation strategy, and all kinds of strategy, one thing you can do is take that tension of getting into the inbox out of the equation altogether.
Exactly.
So I think Explore certification is one of my recommendations. But with or without certification, always look into your metrics. Look at different data sources, because at the end of the day, everyone needs to be customer-centric. If you're not providing your subscribers what they really want, what they want to look at, or giving them a good experience, they are not going to engage with your brand, and that's certain. That's what we have seen. And if they don't engage, it's going to visibly impact your inbox placements. It's going to visibly impact your ROI. So think about all the metrics that we spoke about in terms of customer centricity.
Exactly. So thank you for your time today, and if you have any questions, then put your hand up, we can answer them now. If not, then our stand is just out there, and we're happy to also send the deck to you after this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Come on. All right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you see a shift among ISPs in, evaluating inbox placement for a certain sender. Is it shifting from the actual sending IP address to the domain? We've seen, so our business migrated ESPs to the Marses over this past year, and one of the things we noticed was there was a big focus in our previous platform on which IP address you're actually specifically sending from. Within Marses, there's not that much of a focus on that. It's kind of behind the scenes. So has that been a shift sort of in the industry of, it doesn't really matter as much what IP you're sending from as what domain you have?
I think so. I mean, IP reputation and building that reputation when you're doing a warm-up is still very important, but I have seen that shift more to a domain focus. So, for example, a client of ours, a travel brand, recently went for a rebranding, overnight just changed their domain, kept the same IPs, but changed the domain, and we saw them inbox placement drop dramatically because of they've lost that reputation against it. So you kind of have to see it 2 points. If you're going through a rebrand, or if you have to add some new domains, you have to sort of warm it up in the same way you would warm up an IP. And also going back, that it's all about engagement at the end of the day. Obviously, IP reputation, domain reputation will get you so far, but the ISPs are looking at engagement now. It's, especially with the likes of Gmail and Oath, they're always looking at engagement. If customers are deleting the emails without reading, not engaging with those emails, then they'll see that as a negative impact and start moving you into the spam folder. And if they see that then the customers haven't really noticed that and they're not trying to retrieve those emails, then at some point you just won't get delivered at all.
And then also content is important, because if you're sending emails in a shared infrastructure, then if I were Microsoft, how do I know who you are? So the content as well as domain, Gmail also gives quite important, they look at domain quite a lot. So it's a mix of both. So don't just think about, okay, domain is important, IP is not. Look at it in a kind of a 360-degree view would be my suggestion. But we can talk about it, just grab us. And
Cool, no problem. Hello.
Is certification a content process or like a technical process?
It's a bit of both. It's a compliancy audit. So what happens is you would apply, and then we would look over everything you're doing as a sender, from your reputation, your metrics, and your infrastructure backend, and also your content as well. For example, do you have third-party content in your emails versus first-party content? How easy it is to unsubscribe? Is your branding consistent through the whole thing? And if you pass all of those metrics, then you can be certified.
well, having said that, just know certification is a compliance-based process. So it's very easy for us to say get certified, but obviously there's a process and audit like Dan mentioned. If you are a part of certification, no, that does not mean you're always going to get to the 100% inbox. If you have a complaint problem, if you're over the threshold of our compliance, it is possible that you might get impacted, but go through the process. And I think you have to be a good sender no matter if you like it or not. And there are always challenges because your business will always ask you to send more emails. We will ask you to kind of do this, do that, and this is not the best practice, but we'll always find a way to make sure that you are within those compliance metrics and get the benefits. But it is a compliance-based program. Anyone else?
You mentioned that we are not able to avoid personalization and it's not used, and you also mentioned that too much of personalization can be creepy. I was wondering what is too much? How do you understand too much?
Can I just say this is a very, very good question. DMA did a survey and they surveyed 1,000 subscribers and they asked, so what do you like? Like, what do you like about an email program? So 2 metrics came up. A lot of people said, oh, we want a lot of personalization. And the next point was, oh, too much personalization is just creepy. It's just, I feel like I'm being stalked. So it's a very good question. And I think walk before you can run. So depending on what you're doing right now, what sort of data you're collecting, think about personalization. Start small. Start with maybe a salutation and a name, because that's the easy data for you to collect. Moving on to way creepy personalization. Dan, you have yours.
Yeah, I mean, as Frank said, it also depends on the brand. Obviously, some brands and some customers will accept a lot of personalization because they want it to be super tailored to them, while other brands, it doesn't quite fit that model. So I have a good example. Sainsbury's, I went into a new store a few months ago and must have swiped my next card without thinking about it. And they sent me an email a few days later going, we noticed you visited the Chippenham store at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. And I was like, all it needs is the CCTV picture of me at the counter, and it's just like a bit too much Big Brother. And all they wanted was a review of how I found the store. If they simply said, we noticed you visited the store for the first time, how did you find that experience? I would have been happy with that, but adding all that extra personalized content in there was a little bit even too much for me and kind of put me off doing anything with it.
Depends, and think about the data you're collecting, right? With GDPR, there's a restriction to what you can collect, what you can't. In my mind, data is useless if you're collecting them and you're not using it. So think about from your company perspective, what kind of data you're using or collecting, and then think about what kind of personalization you can start with. Start small and test it. Don't run with an implementation and run it out and implement it for all your database, because it might not go right, or it might go right. But test it out, see a hypothesis, maybe test with 10% of your database and see how it's received, and then go run with it.
Yeah, I also did some work with an online retailer a few years ago that I worked for, and they sent a lot of personalized emails. They were tracking, what customers were obviously purchasing on the website, what was the next products they were looking at. And they sent you emails like, we know you're looking at this, we know you're looking at that. And that was a bit like, that's too aggressive, that's too stalkery. But they toned it down a little bit. Oh, we think you might like this. And it so happened the thing that you like is the thing you're looking at on website. It was just convenient to the customer, and it was less scary and less like imposing them, that they thought we happened to know what they wanted, not that we were stalking them around the website and know exactly what they were engaging with.
So if the company will know that they know what you are going to track, from your perspective, it's too much.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to testing it as well. Maybe do a 10% sample, see how those customers like it. If it goes well, increase it to 20 or 30%. If that's still the case, then you can roll it out to everyone else. I think it's like crawl before you can walk situation of trying these personalization contents out on small base and then expanding out. And also it comes down to lots of different things. I think that might work for a male gender, doesn't work for a female gender, that sort of same tone of voice. So again, it's lots of testing, lots of layers of personalization on top of that to try and find that sweet spot for as many customers as possible.
And just remember, the example Dan is giving is just our perspective of things. Maybe if I received the same email, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting, you care about me. So test out your audience and see what works for your audience. And we can only probably give our perspective to it, and kind of grab us if you like later and we can chat about it.
Perfect.
Right. Anyone else? Okay. So, oh, did you? No?
You've seen things now, Frank.
I'm seeing things
You
now.
need more coffee. I'm starting to run out. Well, thank you very much
All
for your
right.
time. I hope
Thank
we
you
see
for
you all at
being
the
a
Shard
great
tonight
audience.
for a beer.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, next up we have Click Dynamic. Are you mic'd up? Just getting mic'd up. Quick 1 minute, 30-second recess. Okay. Right. Our next favourite partner, Kick Dynamic, will be presenting. We have Matt Hayes and Jordan Sayer. FYI, it's Matt's birthday today. Feel free to sing. No? All right, I'll leave it to you.
Thanks for that, Dan.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
we'll sing happy birthday at the end.
Yeah, please don't. Hey everybody, my name's Matt Hayes. This is Jordan from Kick Dynamic. Just to let you know, we have beer downstairs on the ground floor. I don't know if anyone, I mentioned that yesterday, if anyone doesn't know, but we do have beer. Click me. So today, Jordan and I want to talk about the journey from batch and blast email to personalized email. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what personalization is, what we view personalization is, and see what you guys think about that. We're going to talk about the barriers from doing personalization, the barriers to doing better email, why automation is key to do personalization, and then going to jump into loads of examples. So we've got loads of examples from our customers as to how they've moved from batch and blast to personalized email. We want to get into that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and they're across a whole heap of different industries and examples, so hopefully we'll be able to kind of provide as many examples that are relevant to as many of you as possible.
So,
Yeah, so we're going to start with a little bit of hands up. I'm really sorry. How many of you in this room kind of think that you do personalize your emails, or you do personalize your emails? Okay, we're good.
ah,
Look, so people put their hands up.
I know, they
It's
put
like
their hands up,
amazing.
and there's a lot of people putting their
I
hands up.
know, thanks.
Um,
Cool.
So we use a stat quite a lot saying that there's 94% people don't personalize their email. And these are the reasons that we hear from our customers as to why, and not just our customers, but from other brands that we speak with as well. So not enough resource, that's probably quite a familiar one. Don't have time for personalization, fits into the resource.
Yeah.
Manualness of building email, for example.
Yeah. And like content changes all the time, so you build an email, you get ready to send it, and then someone says, oh, you've got to change that, the price has changed, that's no longer in stock. Things like that change, and it's just, a lot of people find they don't have the time to build all the different versions and kind of manage that to get it out of the door.
So this is why we hear that time and time again, and we find that many brands get stuck in what we call the BAU loop. And the BAU loop is where you are building an email, you've got the HTML, you put the content in manually, you start testing it, you're ready to go, and then something's broken, or an offer changes, then you have to go back, you start testing again, you go back into the loop, then something else changes, and you get stuck in that loop. And that takes a lot of time. So you just focus on doing that. So you're just focusing on getting email out the door. I'm seeing some nodding of heads when I'm describing
who's
this.
kind of nodding and has that as kind of a pain point in their day-to-day?
And that's what we call batch and blast. And that means that you can't get beyond and do really good, deep personalization from there. You end up maybe doing some segmentation around maybe women's wear and men's wear if you're a retailer, for example. So you don't then have a kind of long-term focus on your personalization. And that's because you're not able to automate. I always like to talk about this. So I took this picture at a brand who will remain nameless, and they had this on their wall. And this is the process that they went through from start to finish, literally from down there to that email right in the corner, of sending one email out the door. And that took 2 weeks to get one email out the door. Think about what happens in 2 weeks, what changes in 2 weeks, everything that... I did take this about 4 years ago, and they have since changed this process, I'm glad to say. But this is what the manual build process that is preventing, we believe, personalization. So how do you do it? How do you move from batch and blast to better email? So this is kind of the goal. You want to move from this batch and blast mass messaging to everybody to something that is personalized, engaging, relevant, and is live, and is really relevant and rewarding, provides an experience, is personalized. It's not easy to do before we carry on. We work with a lot of customers on this, and it is a really tricky thing to do, and we always recommend starting small. start with a few things, and we can talk about the best place to start, and then you can increase from there something that we call marginal gains. So you can kind of keep adding more personalized bits in, and you end up with something really personalized at the end, whether you start with the BAU, or you start in your welcome program, or you start in your cart abandonment program, or you start in your birthday program, wherever it will be. If you start increasing that, then you get marginal gains. So how do we approach it? So we approach it in three areas. So automation, I'm going to describe why that is key. Then we're going to get into what we call personalization, and then also adding on kind of relevancy, which is a really interesting way of doing personalization for lots of reasons, which we will get into. So let's start with automation. So I mentioned at the beginning, and I'm going to say automation is key. I'm going to say this quite a lot. And let me explain what I mean by automation in our world. It's automating the content in an email, not the email message itself. So it means that content that you're providing within the message is something that is automatically being updated. And what Kick Dynamic does is it updates that content at the moment that you're opening the email. So what that means is because it's updating at every open to the newest content, it means that you don't have to manually edit it from email to email, from HTML to HTML, from week to week, from day to day, whatever it may be. It's automatically updating at that time of open. So that's adding huge amounts of efficiencies. It's low resource from a manual point of view, because you only have to create it once. So it's actually no manual resource, it's just setting it up. And then from there, once you've got that automated content, and we're going to show some examples, you can then move that into then personalizing it to different customers in different messages depending on the data that you have. Does that make sense before I carry on, before Jordan carries on? From an automating content point of view. Great, good.
So what is email content automation? So this is kind of how we see automation in our minds. So we have our platform, and you can connect content sources into our platform. So some of you may work in retail or fashion. That's your product catalog. That might be a new in feed, basically a CSV file of all of your products. Could be an XML file of your blog, your news, anything like that, or it could be an API. So we can connect that into our platform, and basically when you send that email, we're going to call that content source and automate all of the production of that content into your email. So you drop a tag into your HTML, which is just an image and a link, and every single time that email is opened, we're going to go and call that content source and retrieve the latest content. So in terms of that kind of manualness, you don't have to do those manual processes every time you want to get an email out the door. So I work with a lot of brands that have a real focus on efficiency, and this is where they're going, removing all of those niggly little updates they have to do, pausing automated programs. All of those things are now being replaced with automation to save them time and just to help them be really efficient as an email marketing team.
And that content part there can be any content. So we could be products if you're a retailer. It could be news if you're a publisher. It could be blogs if you have a blog. It could be any kind of content. So we've got loads of examples here, but I just want to be clear that it could be any kind of content that you might want to put in.
So I've got examples of all of those things that Matt has just mentioned.
So from the benefit point of view, we've just to kind of recap on the benefit. You're replacing that manual update that you're doing within your email from day to day, week to week, whatever it may be, with something that's now automated. And you can also leverage and repurpose existing content that you may have. So you can take content that's from a feed that's the same feed that's powering the website, for example.
So I think that's a really important point. So you guys will have blogs, you'll have things like that manually, if you want to put a blog post into your email, it's a manual thing. You go check the blog, find the latest content, find the latest content, put it into your HTML. That can all be replaced with an automated solution. So you don't have to do that every single time.
It also means that you don't have to rely on the design team to do stuff. Any designers in the house?
Can't really see.
Good, I haven't offended anyone. Because that can slow things down, because they're really busy designing for the website or designing for maybe social or something like that. You can kind of remove that out of the manual process. So it means that having that, you now thinking automation, you've got efficiency at your core, and that allows you to then have a new approach to personalization, which we'll get to.
We'll get to. So just to give you kind of an example of automation in practice, this is an example from Asda, who's one of our clients. Basically, they sent a weekly recipe email and it was completely manual. So they'd go find the recipes, populate it, make it look pretty, have to spend kind of the week getting it signed off before it was ready to go out the door. What they've actually done now is taken their API from their website, plugged that into an email, and now all of the content is automatically populated, and that email is just scheduled to go once a week. So it's a completely fully automated email, which means that there's not somebody there every day having to build it and get it out the door. It's just done and ready to go at all times. And you can see it's really on brand and it's a really good looking email. This is another great example. I'm not sure if any of you send daily deals, have products that kind of come in as a daily deal. So this email actually is an example from Staples. They used to run send time optimization and they have a daily deal pod in the email. So, you know, the email would start firing out at like 6 a.m. and that deal would be available in stock, great. As it kind of got through, you know, they've got millions and millions of subscribers. By the time it got to like lunchtime, that deal was like nowhere to be seen, but people were still getting that content. So by leveraging their tech that they already had, so their API that powers the deals on their site, they've actually been able to take that and put that live into their emails. So whenever you open this email, it's got the latest deal, the latest top deal that's featured on that site. It's always in stock, it's always available to buy. And the other elements in the image that you can see, like the price and the discount percentage, those are all live as well. So it's taken an experience that was good, but it's really massively improved it without any resource. So this has run for sort of 6 months plus without being touched, literally just set up and left to run, which is really, really important because this was somebody's job to kind of do all day long, get this out the door.
Literally set up once, put in an email, and then it updates every open. It's just, the guy just sits there with his feet up now and doesn't do anything.
But you know, it's just a different approach to email. So they came to us with a problem of how do we remove this challenge of the deals selling out and things like that. And you know, obviously, if we can make it live and automate it, that's a big win for them. And they can now spend time refining the email, doing more testing, and kind of use that time productively in other areas of their email. So we've got PokerStars here. Hi. This is an absolutely fantastic example of automation. And this is live odds in an email. So how we can automatically show the latest content at every open. So in this example, you can see the odds changing. That's just kind of an example of how if you open this email at different times of day, you've got the latest odd automatically displayed in that email. Anything to add?
No?
And again, there must be some fashionistas in here. So this is a fab example. So many retailers, so many fashion retailers in particular, send new in emails. And I know that they are a challenge to get out of the door. There's a lot that goes into them.
Is newness important for people in the room?
Yeah. You guys are great. You're always putting your hands up. So in this example, basically, every week there's a new in email, and it would, you know, you have to get the products, what are the newest products, figure that out, build it into the email. By the time it's tested and sent, some of those products might have gone out of stock where they've been on the website. Now, what we've done is connected up a product feed using a date stamp in there. We now show automatically the newest products into that feed. We've also built in rules around stock levels, so if any of those new in products sell out, they're automatically replaced with products that are in stock and available to buy. So again, that really strong customer experience of you've always got the latest products that are actually available for you to click through to and buy. So in this example, you'll see this is the email when it was sent, kind of when it was first opened, and then if you went back to that email a day later, you can reopen it. It's got some of the same products, but the others have been replaced with things that are in stock and available.
Just a couple of other points on this. So this, if you think about this as like a new in section with the 3 rows of products there, it's in a new in email. So they're sending a new in email, so it makes a lot of sense. You can also just take those exact row of products and put it in any email that you might want to send out. So you might want to send a BAU email out and then have a section at the bottom that is, here's new in products. Or you might want to put it in a welcome email, maybe the second email in a series of welcome emails. You might want to put it in there. The point is you don't have to do any other work other than take the tag, as we call it, take it out of there, put it in that HTML, and then it will render at the time of open, as it does in this email. So where newness is important, This actually allows brands to send a new in-email campaign if they don't already, and also add new in products into existing email campaigns.
So it's absolutely, like Matt said, it's a great addition to anything that's kind of running in an automated program, like your Welcome, your New In, anything like that, because you don't have to touch it. Set it up, it's always going to show the latest.
Okay,
Back
good.
to you.
So that's some examples of kind of what we kind of think about as pure automation. So it's where where everyone who receives the email is seeing the same thing, but it's an automated thing, and it's either live, like in the PokerStars example, like real live, and in the sense that it's kind of updating, or it's automated. So how do we take that from everyone seeing the same thing to adding into personalization in that? So personalization and how we view personalization is actually more about individualization. Kind of what Brandon was talking about yesterday, the guy from Forrester, the individualization is really where we are. But we talk about personalization because everyone understands that, and it's a word that people use. But it's about creating as many possible pieces of content in an email that are personalized to the recipient based on what you know about them from just one email. So imagine sending one email out, and in that email it's going to update to every single one of you depending on what we might know about you. That's where we want to get to with personalization. And that allows it to be able to be spread across all of your email campaigns. It also needs to be live. It needs to be on trend in season. It needs to be fresh. It needs to be in stock if you're a retailer. That's what we deem as personalization. And just to reiterate, you can't achieve it without automation.
Yes.
You really can't. So if we think back to the diagram that Jordan went through earlier, we've got us embedded into the HTML, and then you have pulling content at the time of open. You can now add in the personalization part. So at that time of open, we're also going to go into a CRM system and grab data about someone to use to then do more personalization within that content. So real base example, we might go and get someone's brand preference. And then we're going to then match the content from a feed that's relevant to that brand preference, as an example.
So I've got examples of that.
Does that make sense before we carry on? Okay, cool, good.
So with personalization, there's different layers of personalization. So I'm going to jump back to that New In example that I just showed a little bit earlier. If you think of a retailer like Harrods, they've got so many different categories on their website. You go on there, there's 100, 200, 300 categories. And they've got New In products in every single one of those categories. Threes, I'm going to say they've got 100. That's 100 different New In emails that you would have to build and get out the door. What we can do through using that CRM data is merge that into our tag and basically generate a New In email for every single category on their site automatically. So if you consider how long that would take in our platform, it's half an hour to set up from scratch, if that, literally if that. All you're going to do is then take that category preference that you've got in your CRM, and you're automatically going to have hundreds of different versions of this email based on what's new in the category that you've browsed or purchased from before. So that's a really simple example of personalization.
Just to talk about that,
oh, sorry,
I want to make one point. It's important, is we're taking New In and we're personalizing it. It's fair to say that Harrods still do a level of merchandising within this.
Oh, they do.
And that's really important when you're coming, for the retailers in the room, maybe not just the retailers, is that Harrods don't want to show, if someone's brand preference or preference, if a product that's new is a bangle, for example, and let's say they get 50 new bangles in, they don't want to have this email just with bangles, because that doesn't look very good. It's not on brand for Harrods. So you still have to add a layer of merchandising in to say remove bangles. And they do lots of things like that.
Yeah.
Harrods, especially because of the nature of the brand and the licensing laws that they have with their with the brands that they sell, they're not allowed to do certain things as well. So you have to filter that in. So if someone's thinking through that, yeah, it's all accounted for in there.
So to jump on to another example of personalization, and this is a really nice example of taking that kind of category level personalization and just applying an extra layer to it. So price modeling on top of it based on your average order values. So in this example here, If you're a low, medium, or high spender, you get products in your category personalized to your propensity to spend a certain amount on their website. So if you're a high spender, you'll receive new-in handbags that are high price point. And that's through that personalization, they've seen an increase in click-through rates of over 300%. So it's really, really key, and it's driven significant revenue from showing the right products to the right people. And it looks really great as well. So I know we've been pretty heavy on kind of fashion at the moment, so I wanted just to jump into travel. Are any of you guys travel people? Anyone work in travel? Oh, hello. This one's for you guys. So this is an example of an email that was super, super manual, and it had no personalization. So it was the deal team would send the email team a list of all of the deals to feature in an email. They'd manually build it out with 9 deals in there. It was really time consuming. They kind of did that a couple of times a week. What they've now done is taken their API, plugged it in, and automated all of that deal content. So bar the header, everything else you can see in these emails, bar the hero, sorry, they're all automated deals. What that automation's allowed them to then do is to take somebody's nearest airport that they know about, somebody, so, you know, Heathrow for me, Gatwick for you, maybe. We then get the right deals from our airport. So it's personalized on that kind of level of where we're likely to fly from.
Yeah. Before, they were sending deals that flew from London to people that lived in Manchester.
Yeah.
Which, okay, some people do travel down from Manchester to London to fly, but they just couldn't do it because they had to manually build. What you can't see is you're seeing 2 deals here.
There's 9.
There's about 15 or so, or something ridiculous in an email. So they've got to build that manually. They automate it, and then they can go, right, now we have time to actually say, well, let's make sure we don't send London deals to people who are in Edinburgh.
Yeah, so that's really strong for them. So the automation saved them a lot of time internally, which has then allowed them to kind of review everything they're doing and strategically move beyond spending all their time getting that deals email out the door. And now this is a fantastic example from Dustin. They're a Nordics retailer, and they actually send one-to-one product recommendations. So every single person that receives an email from them gets truly personalized products. They've actually got their own API that does that, so they merge in some information from their ESP about a customer, so a unique identifier, and that basically gives them personalized products in their email. The additional benefit of that, everybody's getting the right products, is that the prices and the campaign discounts, everything like that, are all live at the time of open. So you'll see in this example on this screen here, we've got the different image templates. That's all powered from one live image in Kick Dynamic, the different variations. So you'll see we've got the first Apple iPhone is not on discount, the next one's a new product, and then the other one is at a discount. That's all powered from one live Kick Dynamic image with different visibility layers on there. So you can get really, really creative in your design. You don't have to sacrifice what your image in your email looks like. Anything?
Not this one.
No? Good. So yeah, they've had absolutely fantastic results from this in terms of increasing their conversion rates and their click-through rates, and everything has kind of gone in the right direction. So it's an absolutely brilliant campaign. Well, this one's a biggie. That scary diagram that Matt showed at the beginning, this is kind of like that. So Mobiles is a subsidiary brand of Carphone Warehouse. They sell mobile phones. Now, I don't know if any of you are due for contract renewal, but it's a stressful time trying to pick a phone. Like, what phone do you want? What network? What tariff? How much data do you need? How many minutes? All of that has to be answered with this retention program here by Mobiles. It's a two-year program. 40 odd emails over 2 years you're going to get. They basically did everything manually. So every update of that email, every time they wanted to send an email, they had to pause the program, update the content with prices, and get it out the door. The flip side of that, the prices changed all the time, so sometimes they would have to update that trigger a few times a day. Loads of different challenges with that. So the kind of challenges that they had were they couldn't actually feature price in the email. People were clicking through and seeing different content. So they couldn't personalize the email at scale. So the emails that went out the door kind of had generic deals, have an iPhone deal, an Android deal, 2 deals of each. The pricing would be right when it went out the door, but by the afternoon it could have been out of date. So it was really, really generic, batch and blast. Everybody got that email. Through the processes like Matt and I have been talking about, they've connected up their product feed, and they're using their CRM data to now provide a really personalized email experience to everybody, and it's completely automated. So that whole scary diagram now, every single email in there is automated. It's been running for months and hasn't been touched. You automatically get the right deal for your network that you're on, the handset you've previously purchased, the spend that the contract value of your previous spend. So if you're an Apple O2 customer that spends a lot of money, you're going to get this version. If you're an Android, you don't spend as much. You get the same email, but with the content completely populated based on what you have done before. Anything else? So what the results they've seen, showing the right content to the right person for 2 years, this is what they've seen. So they've almost doubled their sales from email, which is massive. They've got more visitors to their site and an increase across the board in all of their emails of 21%. So it's really, really strong message there. And the best thing about it is they don't have to touch it. It's running, and bar minor tweaks here and there, it just runs itself, which is great because there's only 2 of them in their team. So they're doing a hell of a lot because it's all automated, and they're seeing these results consistently improve. And yeah, they didn't just stop there. So they have added more personalization in above products and stuff. So we've got personalized images, countdown timers, and they've also now personalized content. So they have a knowledge base that has all of their blogs, their latest news, information about handset releases. All of that is automated, and it's also personalized to the device that you're using. So if you're opening on an iPhone, you're going to get iPhone news. If you're opening on an Android, or you bought an Android last time, you're going to get Android news in there. And they also include social as well, just to mix it up a little bit. So we've got live Twitter feeds in their emails as well.
So what they're doing there is that kind of extra bit is something that we call relevancy. So how can you automate relevancy? What is relevancy? So let me explain relevancy and what it is. So this is where we get into the contextual side of personalization. So this is what you know about someone at that exact moment that they're actually reading your email. So we serve images at the time of open, we update images at the time of open, but we can also detect some things about people at the time of open. First of all, we detect the exact time that they're opening the email. We can detect from a geo-IP level their location. From their location, we can also know what the weather might be in their location. And we also can detect their device. So again, we've got some examples of those, but that's really important to add that layer of relevancy, again, spread into your email programs. What's the major benefit is actually where you may not have any data about someone. Let's say they've signed up and not completed the preference center, so you have their email address, and you're emailing them, but you might not know anything about them. This is a good way to add an extra layer of relevancy in there because we can detect a few things about them at the time of open.
So going back to that mobiles example I just talked about, they have a concept of sleepers. So they're people that haven't upgraded their contract by the 2-year period when they've got to their upgrade window. They actually go into a different program that detects what device that person's then opening their emails on, and the content is then powered by what device they're using. So we recognize that they're opening that email on an Android, they're going to see Android deals in that sleeper period, for example. So that person's dropped off the retention program, but we still know something about them and are able to personalize using that information.
Actually, John, before you go on, let's address one thing, which Dan and Priyanka talked about as well, is the creepy factor here. Obviously, it was mentioned yesterday with Brandon. So we totally agree with Dan's approach. Is that, yes, we are detecting quite a lot about someone, but you don't say, oh, we noticed you're opening in London on an iPhone and it's 3 p.m. You don't say that. You provide the content and relevant information based on that kind of thing. So exact same approach. That's the way that we kind of think about that as well.
Yeah, so in terms of like relevancy and things like that, it can be as simple as taking something that's on your site that's relevant information for the person receiving your email, and basically just replicating what's on your site in email, which is exactly what this example is. So on their website, Pretty Little Thing have an offer code and a countdown timer. So the offer's valid for a couple of hour windows throughout the day. So it might be free delivery before 12 p.m. and that's available between 9 and 12, for example. Before working with us, they couldn't get that content into their email. So what they've done now is using our tech, they're able to take that deal and information they've got on their site and kind of mirror it directly into their email, which has led to a big increase in their click-through rates because people are seeing the relevant offer based on the time that they're opening their email, paired with a live countdown timer and when that offer expires.
I think they have 9 offers. Is it 9 during the day?
Yeah, I
so
think
it
so.
updates 9 times during the day, every day,
Waiting
7
for-
days a week.
Is
Have a lot of
Jess-
offers.
Is Jess nodding?
Um,
Yeah, so another great thing for time of open is things like live TV schedules, for example. So this was something we did for the Olympics, so it was a while ago now, but it's still as relevant. We plugged in a feed of TV schedules and a live medal table, and the content every single time you opened that email had what's up next and the latest medal table every single open. So
we need to
it's
update
super
that
relevant.
image because Great Britain is nowhere to be seen and they came second, I think.
Oh yes, sorry, sold. But this is a great example of automation and relevancy as well. So the time that you're opening, you're automatically seeing the right thing at the right time, the right TV schedule. And this one?
Yeah, so probably our favourite campaign for lots of reasons is from Squaw Valley. So I don't know if anyone knows Squaw Valley. Squaw Valley is the skiing range in California around Lake Tahoe. So it's kind of north of San Francisco. And they have now fully automated their email that goes out every single morning to give someone an insight into what's going on for the lifts that day. So this is fully live, and every time the email is opened, the content updates to show the lift status, whether the lift is open, whether it's closed, whether it's kind of, I don't know what other statuses there actually are.
Whether it's delayed.
Delayed, that's the one I was looking for. So fully live, and they also bring in the 2 images in the middle are live webcam images, and then also the weather forecast as well for that day
So this is all powered by the feeds that they use to power, those screens when you go skiing that say all the lift statuses. It's using the exact same tech that's powering those screens when you're on the mountain. It's just in an email. So it's really, really strong, and the tech already existed. They've just literally taken it and repurposed it for their email.
And this is one of those ones where the language you use in the email as well is interesting and really important. They call out that it's real time. So that's why real-time information right there, because that's what their customers want to see. They want to know that what they're seeing is actually, if they now drive and they can go and ski those runs. So they call that out. Doesn't necessarily mean you want to call out another email that you do, but their strategy is exactly perfect for actually calling out this is real time.
And what they found is that people actually check back into the email for the status update rather than kind of going through to the website and trying to get the information there. So it's a really interesting kind of behavioural change for email.
So your typical open rate would be you got send and then your open rate would spike after you sent it, and then you kind of got a tail like that. For them, you get a spike, and then you kind of see spikes going through. So that's how we see that people are coming back to look at the email.
So again, on the relevancy side of things, detecting what device someone's opening your email on and then targeting that content to be more relevant to them. This is an example of a retailer that on a mobile shows their openers a tap to shop button versus on a desktop you can see we've got the shop the collection button there. And what we've consistently found is that when you show a tap call to action on a mobile, there's a much higher engagement across multiple different industries. So I would expect you guys to start seeing a lot more of this. So keep your eyes peeled, particularly around Black Friday and things like that. There's a lot of device targeting heading everybody's way. And again, we can detect weather when that email's open. So we'll detect where you are and detect the weather. So this is a great example, again, of automated relevancy. So we're automating the products that are shown in there, but they're shown based on the relevancy. So if you open this email when it's over 20 degrees, you get the latest dresses. If you open it under 20 degrees, you're going to get coat content because it's chilly. So it's a really simple, straightforward thing to set up, but what it means is you don't have to With a retailer like Harrods, they've got so many different countries they send to, the weather's so variable across the world. They do one send and we detect the weather and show the right products at the right time to the right person. So it's completely automated and it's totally relevant. So yeah, just we've talked a lot, but just to kind of give you a quick roundup of the results for some of these campaigns, you can see everything is really positive. So from personalizing products, we've got brands that are seeing more than like 50% more average order values from their product emails, 33% more conversion from email, and significantly more sort of transactions on site.
The AOV increase is the most exciting one for me always. So it means that people are buying more every time that they click through on an email than they were before. Right? That means that the personalization that we're providing, and the brand is defining using our tech, is increasing. People are buying more. That's a really important metric. It's actually something that we tend to see more over time. So if you took a month, for the first month, you probably wouldn't see that. Because it requires a bit of learning. It requires the customer to realize that what they're getting is something that is personalized to them. Seeing that, opening it more, clicking through more, and then you see the AOV increase. So that's the most interesting metric that we see across our brands.
And it's across a lot of brands.
So to sum up, I don't know if I mentioned it, but automation is key. Really is in terms of getting to that personalization. And if anyone's sitting in the room thinking, oh, I do personalization, I send women's wear to and menswear email or something like that, that's great, but you may be stuck there and you can't get beyond that. You have to automate the content to be able to do that. And also combine different layers of personalization, different layers of relevancy across all of your email programs. Because then you get something that I personally am a big believer in, is the marginal gains effect, is that you'll see a gradual increase in clicks, revenue, etc. Get out of the BAU loop if you're in there. If you really are stuck in there and you need some therapy on it or something like that, come and see us, because we can take you through how that works. And we do also believe that content needs to be live, because things are changing quickly. Sale is going on. If you do sale, Black Friday obviously is a big thing, although it can be painful. So things do need to be live.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about Black Friday, but if you do want any information, we've got some great brochures with loads of ideas in there. So swing by our stand and check them out.
Thank you very much.
That's it. We don't have a question slide.
We don't have an end slide.
Yeah.
Any questions from anybody?
No? Very good. Does anyone have a question but's too scared to ask? Because we can hang around. Okay.
Come and see us.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Oh, Jenna.
Oh.
I was just going to ask, what do you think is the biggest benefit that clients typically have seen?
The biggest benefit that clients have seen? Yeah. It's got to be the resource thing. So the efficiency from automating content, it's like I don't know if anyone's where you've got a project that you've got to work on and your head's just stuck in that project and you can't think of anything else, until that's done. That's what we see with a lot of our customers that we work with. The ones that are actually building the email and pressing send on the email, they can't do anything else because they're stuck in that BAU loop. And they're also you're not controlling it, because you've got a designer that's doing this bit and an HTML person that's doing this bit. You've got your ESP that got a master's doing this bit. So that automating some of that and taking some of that pain away is the biggest benefit, without doubt.
Yeah. The rest of it's just an added bonus.
So that? Other than being amazingly better and having beer, they're in the room as well. So for us, the biggest way that we differentiate is starting at the beginning, and that's the strategic approach. So obviously our tech is amazing, but there's no point just giving you the tech and going off you go. You need to be able to come out. We need to look at your major problems, see where your email is today, look at the potential uplift depending on the strategies that we're going to define, come out with an ROI calculation on that and see the uplift, and then balance that off against the cost, and then you can see the kind of ROI you're going to get from that. So how we differentiate is we're a big believer in the strategy starting at the beginning and going through that, and then the tech plugs in and does everything it needs to. One other major benefit or difference is the automation is something that I'm a big fan of, that's why I talk about it a lot. That's where we build our platform from. So we make it as easy as possible. You shouldn't actually be in the Kick Dynamic platform. You should build everything you need to build, put it in your email, and look at the results. Right, that's the approach that we take.
Anybody else? I think we're good.
Cool. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, if we get back here for 11 o'clock, we've got ZMags and Shopify Plus. Thank you very much to Turnpath and Kick Dynamic. Go and visit them at their stands. Got amazing